What if you could have somebody tell you exactly what's wrong with your story and exactly how to fix it? That's what I'm doing in this video today. I'm going to take somebody's story and tell them exactly what's wrong with it and how to fix it. This is advice I would have paid a ton of money for back when I was trying to sell my first book. I amassed like 250 rejections, maybe even more, before I finally sold my first book. And there was so much I didn't know, and I didn't know how to fix it. So thank you to Dexter for being a volunteer or a victim for this new series I'm starting called Fix My Story. I have a whole submission link down below, so you can be a part of this too. So let me know, you guys, after this video, what you think, what you'd like more of, what you'd like less of, and if you're willing to submit your pages for it. So let's get right into Dexter's story. Dexter's writing a fantasy about a couple who meet and then fall in love. When you submit for this particular series, you only get 150 words for the synopsis and 200 words for the pages. And before you say, that's not enough, I want you to remember something. You give this video at most 15-20 seconds before you click off and go do something else. You give a book maybe a page or two before you click off and go somewhere else. You are gone very quickly if it doesn't hold your interest, because there's so much vying for our interest. And even if you are a devoted fantasy reader, there's a bazillion fantasy books out there, so you're going to pick up another one. So the whole goal of this series is to teach you how to create a book that is interesting on every single page. A page is about 250 words. So I limit you guys to 200 words because I want you to keep the reader engaged on every single page. Now, I know it's hard. I know it's difficult, but you can absolutely do it. And I will show you how I helped Dexter do it. The things that we're looking for are whether the plot is clear, if the stakes are there, if the characters feel distinct from the first page. Are there consequences to their actions? Are there conflicts all over the place? Because remember, you need conflict on every single page. That is probably the number one mistake that I was making when I wasn't selling my first few books. I didn't realize you needed not just external conflict, which is the car chases and the bad guys and all of that, but you needed internal conflict. And that's one of the things I'm going to help Dexter layer in this scene. Now, I don't know, because Dexter didn't tell me, whether this is the very first line or if this is like halfway through a scene or where this particular scene takes place. There's a few problems that I see that I will get to in a second, but I just want to talk about the excerpt that he sent in. I like the dialogue. There's a lot of dialogue. There's not a whole lot of action going on here, but the dialogue is done really, really well. And that's one of the things that I really enjoyed. There's also this little alliterative game thing that Harwin plays that is absolutely charming. And I loved that part too. And there's also a hint of the romance. It's not entirely there, but you get that hint that that plot is coming. But what Dexter's struggling with here is pacing, is having enough going on so that A, we get to know the character and connect with the character, but don't drag it down so much that you feel like the book's not moving, and also having something at stake. Now, granted, this is not a high stakes action plot, and that's totally okay. You don't have to have a high stakes action plot, but there still has to be something there that the character is going to fight for, that the reader is going to care about. There are other things at play here with what is going on in Harwin's life, and you need to layer those in so that the reader sees what he is risking by meeting Elwyn here. So I need overall just for it to feel like it has a little bit more depth to get to know the characters.
Okay, let's go.
When you look at the fix, you'll see the red is what I changed, the black is what was there originally, and the green is the justifications or the reason for the fixes that I have. The first thing that I noticed is that Dexter went back and forth in point of view between Harwin and Elwyn. What happens then is the reader doesn't get to know anybody. It's just like meeting a bunch of people in a crowd, so you don't get to know them. You want to stick to one point of view per scene for at least the first third of the book, probably the first half, because that gives the reader enough room to get to know the character. The second thing that it's missing is a setup and a little bit more of bringing Harwin to life on the page. So the red that I added, I shifted my weight and put out a hand. Just the simple gesture of meeting somebody. Kept the dialogue the same. Before I forget my manners entirely, my name is Harwin and I work in town evaluating and mapping survey results for new train lines. That's great. That's a normal job. But how would a character react internally so you get that internal conflict going on? Well, if you're meeting somebody you're interested in, you might feel like, did that sound like a dumb job? Would she be completely unimpressed? For the first time in my life, I wished I was a knight or a commander or anything more exciting than a surveyor. No woman thinks it's my dream to date a surveyor. So then you get a little bit of a joke in there, you got a little bit of levity, and you've got the plot already rolling where we know what's at stake here for Harwin. And it builds a relationship with the reader because they're like, oh, I totally relate. Elwyn's reaction, which I kept, is to say something back. Now the ice is properly broken between us. Also want her to have a physical reaction so that we get to know her. She gives me a smile and the gesture lifts her face from beautiful to breathtaking. She has a dimple beside her right cheek, a slight indent that draws my eye over and over again. She takes my hand, gives it a quick shake, then releases it too soon. Adding those lines there does a lot of things. It first of all shows us Elowen without having to tell us what she looks at like. It also shows what Harwin is noticing, the smile, so we can see that he's not like a total creep. And it also gives us a little bit of that sense of disappointment that he feels when she releases his hand. We know that she kind of likes him because of the way that she reacts. So this is a good setup for a potential romance, and you want the reader to at least feel like it could potentially work out. Then she tells him what she does for a job. I'm a cook, primarily of confections if you happen to have a sweet tongue, on a 2-year internship at the Misty Heights Hotel. Now, once she says that, you want to have this care structure to every single thing that you do in your book. If you haven't seen the video already, a character takes an action, there is a reaction, and there is an emotional impact, and that creates the character's next action. Because in real life, things happen, we react, we have some kind of an emotional interpretation to it, and that causes us to react. Those reactions create consequences, and consequences raise the stakes. Even in a book that doesn't have like a bunch of bad guys shooting each other kind of plot, there is always a way to raise the stakes, and that's what this really needs in order to really elevate that plot and keep us turning the pages. So she tells him she's a cook and she makes desserts, and this is how he reacts. In an instant, I note several things. She's talented and creative, and she's going to be here for at least 2 years. That means this could either be a disaster or a very fortuitous moment. There's a whole lot of things going on in this couple of sentences. Number one, we see what he thinks of her. He thinks she's creative. He thinks she's talented. He's already really liking her. Number two, he's thinking, oh, that's great. She's going to be here for 2 years. I could get to know her more. But number three, he has the normal human being reaction that we would all have to meeting somebody and knowing they're going to live in the same small place where we do. And if we date them and it goes awry, that could really be uncomfortable. And we can see the stakes escalate, and that makes it even more uncomfortable and puts a little bit more pressure on Harwin. So this is a tiny little stake, but it's enough to get the reader invested because the reader can relate. And that's all you're really trying to build, no matter what genre you're writing, is relatability and connection. He replies, "It's a pleasure to meet you," but then you want to add and echo back to what you just said, and also show that this is the character's next action that he takes. Remember, he said, she's going to be here for 2 years. Oh crap, that could end badly. Now, what would be the impact of thinking that? Well, you might just kind of trip over yourself, right? And then that makes him sort of endearing and adorable, and we root for him even more. And so that's exactly what I have him do. Then my mouth gets ahead of my brain, and the stumbling, nerdy part of me slips out in a rush. So that echoes back to what he said in the beginning, but it also gives him a motivation for that lovely little charming line that Dexter has in there. So we are Elowen and Harwin. It seems you and I are both when wounded wizardry watchers. I loved that line, but you needed to have a little bit of motivation and a little bit layering in there and a little bit humanity in there. Now, she needs to react. He made an action, right? He said this kind of dorky line. Instead of telling, which is what Dexter had originally, I wanted to show how she reacts. So you can stay in his point of view and you can see his uncomfortableness as he waits for her to have some kind of words back. She stares at me for a long, interminable second, and I think I should run home and hide for the next 2 years. Again, we're echoing back to what he just thought and how this is going to go so sideways, and he's nervous. Then she begins to giggle, then outright laugh. So we have shown that she kind of likes that and she kind of appreciates it, and they're kind of friends already without having to tell the reader anything. 2 points, Master Harwin, for a most unexpected triumph of well-woven, witty wordplay. And again, we're seeing these characters come to life in the dialogue. We just need to layer in that little bit more of showing with actions and internal reactions. And here's how you add that. Right after this, we want to escalate the romance a little bit because this is their meet cute, right? So we want to escalate things and add more conflict. But again, you don't need a car chase to do it. You can do it in a very effective way with a few lines. So I added these here for Dexter. And that's when I knew I was in trouble. I have an apprenticeship to worry about, a mother who needs me, and a home to repair. The last thing I need is this woman's smile disrupting my life. Yet disrupt it did. Now, I don't know that Harwin has any of these things going on. I just added external elements because in real life, that's exactly what we have. We have a whole lot of other things going on. I just wanted to show Dexter how you can add these little bits of things and you see the conflict that is in the way of him falling in love right now. Because in a romance, remember, The main plot is never, ever, ever going to be to fall in love, because you want your characters to have a fully developed life where they're doing other things besides falling in love. And love comes along and throws a monkey wrench in it and then becomes the icing on the top. That's exactly how you want any love story to go, no matter what genre it is. So overall, all I want you to do, Dexter, is make that plot and character come alive a little bit more on the page by just adding in these layers and really showing how these characters act. And if you're watching this and you're a writer writing any genre, what I want you to do is to start with the thing you do best. For Dexter, it's clearly dialogue. That's where his comfort zone is. That's what he did really well in here. I really didn't need to change any of that. Then go back and start layering in these elements of the actions, of the reactions, of the emotional impact, the consequences, the motivation for why they do what they do. And you want to keep asking yourself, how can I show this character more? How can I raise the stakes and create more impact? Because impact is everything. When the character is impacted, the reader is impacted. And when the reader is impacted, the reader keeps turning the pages. So if you want to be the next volunteer for this series, or victim, depending on how you look at it, there's a link in the description down below. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think this is effective? Do you want me to do more of this? Do you want me to make this a whole series? If you do, you got to submit, and I will pick a story at a time to do, and I will pick different genres so that you guys can learn from a variety of different things. It goes along with my analysis of published books series, because that helps you understand what a published book is doing. That's what I want to teach you guys, is how to take your book and make it the most amazing story ever. And if you have a burning writing question you want to ask me, you can drop it in the comments, or you can come to my live streams, which happen almost every Friday at 4 Eastern time. That's when I talk about writing in between us writing together. And in the meantime, check out my analysis of the first chapter right here so you can see how a book goes together and why every single word is there on the page. Don't forget to like and subscribe, share with other writers, because sharing is caring, and I will see you on the other side of the page.